Welcome everybody to another video of Vinyl Addict. This is Chili and today is part 2 of my series of 100 favorite albums from English artists. I'm going from 85 to 71. Now before I get into this, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment on this video, share this video, and if you still haven't, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for updates. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's just get into this. I'm going to try to move on real quickly here. So 85, we have Charlatans U.K. Okay, they just now call themselves Charlatans by this album. This is the 4th album, and this is a really nice music on vinyl edition, and it comes like so. And this has Crashing In, which is a good song. Chemical Risk here is produced by the Chemical Brothers, which was on my first video. And I really like what Rob Collins has done on this album with his playing on the Wurlitzer and Hammond organ, and you know, it has like this kind of hippie vibe with some dance beats. It's really great stuff. Charlatans. Okay, we next move into the Mission U.K, and then they just take the U.K off too as well, and they call themselves a Mission. This is an older version of this album, Children. It's single, while the new one here is a double gate. It's a gatefold, and still great album. This one, they both sound good. But I like the way the colors pop out more on this one. But this is the album that was produced by John Paul Jones. Beyond the Pale is a great song. The opening track with the children fading in. Tower of Strength, of course, has that kind of Zeppelin-esque epicness like Kashmir. So only John Paul Jones could, bring this band to that kind of level of sounding very grand. And there they are at the time. The Mission with Wayne Hussey. Great band. Okay, so moving on, we have this singer, John Waite, who used to front the band The Babies and Bad English. This is his solo album. He had the single on here, Missing You. And this is when he had the little spiky orange hair. Another picture of him there. And oddly enough, the album is a hard rock album, and that song is probably the only kind of poppy song on the album, which was took me by surprise when hearing this, and it was just like it's a great album. It's pretty much I guess it's overlooked for being a really good hard rock album just because of the fact of Missing You. But if you guys listen to the whole thing, a lot of great guitars, drums. The abrasive drums, it's a rock album. Okay, so we have Flock of Seagulls next. This is their debut with, of course, this was, when this came out, you could hear this in every arcade while you're playing stand-up video games, when they first were really emerging as a cultural phenomenon. And the song Iran was on MTV. The haircut was very iconic. They even made jokes about that on the show Friends, where Chandler and Ross were, there was a flashback where they were in high school because they were in a band together, and, Chandler was, rocking the Flock of Seagulls haircut. It's very funny. Okay, so we go into Yaz. Okay, so this is number 81, and, Clarke, Andrew Clarke from Depeche Mode, he had a couple of albums with them, of course, and then he left and started Yaz with Alison Moyet. And this is Upstairs at Eric's, and I always felt like Alison Moyet's singing style, very soulful, reminiscent of that movie, The Commitments, just she's very talented, and then just to have this music behind it, was really cool, This is a Mobile Fidelity, and it's the sound of this is magnificent, especially some kind of strange things they do here, like I before E except after C, which is like some weird kind of avant-garde spoken word thing, and the layers of just them just saying just kind of spoken word sentences, I before E, after C, and then, you know, this other one that's layered on top of it, and excuse, you know, it's just a lot of just speaking, but I mean, it's just so separated that you could hear all of it really well on that, especially, you know, especially with this mobile fidelity MoFi. So that's recommended to hear and get. Okay, so moving on, we have number 80, we have Gary Numan, Pleasure Principle, and this is a nice vinyl reissue, mastered from HD Digital, $24.96, transfers of analog tapes. And when I think of this album, it reminds me of just like Bowie meets Kraftwerk, you know. Look at this. When the song dropped back in the day, it just sounded like the future. Like, wow, that's future music right there. And look at how these guys are dressed. You know, really cool. And so Gary Numan makes it into the top 100. And so now I have P.I.L. And this album here, this is their most commercial in the UK. They have the song "This Is Not a Love Song," and which is supposedly a joke on commerciality. What John Lydon is saying is that you know, in order to break into, you know, the charts, you got to write a love song, and so this is not a love song. He's, you know, and for some reason, I mean, this album is just as what he wanted this band to be, avant-garde, experimental, and it still somehow cracked the, you know, made it through the cracks, and, you know, made it on the charts with Bad Life as well, the opening song. But this album, I mean, he does all kinds of things on here. He plays the synth bass, he does brass, violins, you know, percussion. He's all over the place on here because the members from the last lineup, they all kind of dispersed and everything. And so I really like this album. It's different than the other ones, and I like the fact that it's very percussionist. It's a lot of drums on it, especially on The Order of Death. I love that song. So P.I.L, Public Image Limited. Okay, now we're going back to Britpop in 1996. We have Elastica. Okay, and this is Justine and Alex from London Suede. They formed this band, and this is a really nice addition here. Now, it took them like about 10 years to make I guess a follow-up to this album, and they were kind of plagued with the thought that, oh, how are we going to outdo this album kind of syndrome. Same thing as like My Bloody Valentine, you know, they waited 20 years for a follow-up because there was just some doubt in their mind, like how are they going to, you know, outdo their previous, you know, magnificent album, their debut. And sometimes the meantime, in between time, could really just, you know, fans can move on and to do into different things if you just wait too long. But yeah, this is a interesting package here with the little catalog, little book here. And it's Elastica, and their songs, of course, Connection and Car Song. But yeah, there's a lot of tracks on here. There's 15 tracks on here. Really good album, Elastica. Okay, now, number 77. Genesis. Now this album here, this is the last album with the members with Peter Gabriel, and this is a concept album. It's a story that Peter Gabriel came up with regarding a Puerto Rican guy in America just coming across some interesting characters, and it's an album that there was a lot of kind of disagreements on, and Genesis, the guys who just play the instruments, and like Phil Collins and Tony Banks, they were just supposed to just make music, and Peter Gabriel was just going to sing to it, and he wanted to just be in control of the narrative of what the story is. And it was pretty much after the album was made, it was kind of like incoherent, and so Peter Gabriel wrote the whole story inside the gatefold. This album clocks in at 95 minutes, up to 95 minutes. Very lengthy, and they played this whole album in its entirety on their tour, and they felt like, well, Peter felt like this was the pinnacle of Genesis as far as that he could go with them musically, and so he departed. And Phil Collins said this was his favorite album of all time, and it's to the point where they even played on their farewell tour earlier this year, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. They always played that, but they also ended the last encore with Carpet Crawl, and Peter Gabriel was in the audience. And so, after Peter left, they still continued with Phil Collins as vocals, and they were still successful. So that's my favorite Genesis album as well. Okay, now moving on to 76. Here's Ozzy Osbourne's. This is his latest, Patient Number 9, and I felt like this is his best album he's had in like 20, plus years. And it is a real solo album, and in the sense of Ozzy, where there's different people involved in different songs, and unlike his earlier works where he would have a touring band and a band that he records and writes with, so like the Randy Rhoads, the Rudy Sarzos and whatnot. But over here, he just has his, people coming in. Other English people like Tony Iommi, of course, from Black Sabbath days. He's on 2 songs, No Escape From Now and Degradation Rules. He has Jeff Beck on a couple of songs, 1,000 Shades, and the Patient Number 9 title track, and Eric Clapton, one of those days. This is a really great album. I was really surprised when I heard this, and there was no stopping Ozzy. This was pretty much, it was to me, it was just like when some artists are just around so long, and then they sometimes they're out of surprises, but not this album. This was really unique and awesome. So Ozzy Osbourne makes it on there at 76. Another note that Jimmy Page was supposed to be on there as well, but he because of scheduling problems, he wasn't there and wasn't able, so perhaps next time. And a little connection from Jimmy Page to Robert Plant. So this is my 75. This is Manic Nirvana, which came out in 1990, and this happens to be, as far as my Robert Plant solo stuff goes, I really liked this album a lot. I went to this tour. It was really amazing. This is the tour where he started playing Led Zeppelin songs again, and the songs on here just rock. I mean, this is the one with Hurtin' Kind, I've Got My Eyes on You, and Tie Dye on the Highway. Those were played on the radio continuously, and he really came out and changed his sound and started rocking again. Kind of got away from the kind of mellow, big log type of songs that he was doing in the early 80s, and by the time he got back into the end of the 90s with even the album before this with Jimmy Page, the Now and Zen album with Heaven Knows, it was a great refreshing return to Robert Plant rocking again. So that's Manic Nirvana. Okay, now number 74, we go back to Glam Rock and Slade. This is Slade's. This is their third album, and this is the one with Come On Feel the Noise, Mama, We're All Crazy Now. And these songs were, of course, covered by so many people. Oasis, for one, and, Quiet Riot, of course, made Come On Feel the Noise very popular, and they also did Mama, We're All Crazy Now. And this is a really cool old school kind of record, There's the guys there. Little booklets in the inside, and they got the platform boots. They're doing that whole thing. The scarves is like glam rock galore right here, deluxe. Slade. Okay, and speaking of Oasis, Liam Gallagher comes in at number 73 with his latest album, Come On You Know. I was really surprised by hearing this, just like his other previous two albums. They all debuted at number 1 and in the UK. And listening to this album from beginning to end, yes, he's really come into his own. He does have some people helping him out. Everything's Electric, of course, but with Dave Grohl. Not a very big Dave Grohl fan. I did love his work in Nirvana, but however, it doesn't sound like a Dave Grohl song, which is cool because it's still Liam Gallagher. And how Liam has really come to his own as far as his songwriting, and this is a lot more personal than his other works. And this is him at the Reading Festival, and he's in the middle there, which is really cool. And then, he's still making a name for himself. He has that movie out where he's like sells out Nebworth by himself, which is really cool. And more power. The introduction of this album is he wrote about Noel, but the deep cuts on here, like Better Days, is really great. Moscow Rules, Oh Sweet Children, the album closer, is very John Lennon-esque, like 70s John Lennon. And then he still kind of, throws in those lines from like Beatles songs, into his, he kind of always did that with Oasis, like, and those things will never change. He's a big Lennon fan, and he always kind of just goes back to those little Beatle moments, which is okay. And the songwriting, of course, he has come a long way from Little James, the first song he wrote with Oasis about his son in the Standing on the Shoulder of Giants album, to this. This is just, I totally recommend this album. Since it came out, it's one of the ones I play a lot. So Liam Gallagher, Come On You Know. Okay, and now we have number 72. We got Fleetwood Mac's very first one, the Peter Green Fleetwood Mac. And you can still see Mick Fleetwood here. And there's Mick V. John, early days, so this is a very great blues album, very blues rock album. And they do, of course, covers like Robert Johnson's Hellbound on My Trail, Shake Your Moneymaker's great, very electric. This is the kind of album you need to hear on vinyl, no doubt. The Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green stuff. So yes, they're on my 100. And last but not least, for number 71, we have Gang of Four. This is the post-punk extravaganza debut album from them. It's when I first heard this, I just it was so unique and so different and unconventional is what comes to mind. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers says that regarding this album, it made me rethink how to make music because it's so unique. And I'll just leave it at that. You need to, if you haven't heard this album, yes, this is one that you need to hear. And then you'll know what I'm talking about. Because just the way the guitars and everything is kind of set up, and the arrangement of these songs, they're clever. That's all I could say. They're clever for bass, drums, and guitar. Okay, and that is my second video, part 2 of a 7 of my 100 favorite albums from English artists. So leave me a comment below on these 15. What are your thoughts? You know, of course, you know, people have a different take on, you know, what should be on here, and I'm sure you do, and I like to hear, you know, your choices as well, and you know, even suggestions, because I've had some on the other video, and just to, you know, hear what other artists are out there that I may not even heard. So it's really cool. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'll shut up for now. Bye.